Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Frank's Professor back at it again. In today's video, I want to share with you three cheapie classics from my collection. I'm really into the cheapie classics, ones from, let's say, the 1980s, going back really as far as I can find. I have fragrances from, in this video that I'm going to share with you, 1960s, one from the 70s and one from the 80s. But I really enjoy these. They're very masculine smelling in their own way. And the three that I'm going to share with you are very, very different, but they're very affordable. And that's, affordable in terms of, let's say, under $30. That's kind of what I'm referring to here. The first one that I wanted to share with you is Oscar de la Renta pour Lui. Now, this was launched originally in 1980, and these are all relatively new, within the last couple of years. And, I have a fairly large collection now, so I don't reach for any one fragrance really all that much. But these are ones that I've tried to wear a little bit more just sort of in preparation for this video. And I just wanted to maybe have them fresh in my olfactory senses to come at you. Now, this was ultra cheap. It was probably around $20 actually. Now, the bottle is, it's rugged. I would say I like the coloration of it. I always like blue. But the cap is, I don't know really what's happened there. It doesn't want to click very, very well or really not at all. But, that's okay, right? Because it's all about the juice and it's all about how it smells, right? So again, 1980. So it was a predecessor to obviously Polo Green and some of these other uber masculine fragrances, powerhouses of the 1980s, like Drakkar Noir, which I really enjoy, have on the shelf. And I just sprayed that, and it really is a powerhouse. It really is enjoyable. If you are not familiar with Pour Lui, Oscar de la Renta Pour Lui, I think you owe it to yourself just to try it out, because it doesn't smell super dated, although, we are looking at 45 years ago now. It smells clean, it smells rugged, it smells masculine. And it's not one that you would be in any danger of overspraying. I think it sort of dissipates. I don't think, and again, I've worn all three of these fairly recently. I don't think any of these I would describe necessarily as a monster or beast mode projector. They're all fairly moderate, and it may be because the fragrances have been somewhat watered down over the years. I don't know. This is my first bottle of all three of these. Well, I take that back, with the exception of the last one that I'm going to share with you. I actually have a splash bottle of it that I'll share in a few minutes. But this is one that I think you'll enjoy. It is woody. It is leathery. It is, there's some aldehydes in there as well, but it is very masculine. And I think if you get it, you'll agree that maybe it predates, in terms of how it smells, some of the other fragrances of the 80s that we all know and love, and maybe had some influence on them. So Oscar de la Renta Pour Lui. The second one up is one that I was not familiar with. I actually came across it in another fragrance reviewer's videos, and it intrigued me. It's called Capucci pour homme, if you can see that. I know that's a little difficult, and I'll put the descriptions in the box below. But Capucci pour homme actually was launched in 1967. So, I don't have a whole lot of fragrances really in the collection from the 1960s or 50s. I have a handful, but I was happy to get this one. And again, it was ultra cheap. Now, this is a little bit more citrus-like, and I can smell the citrus notes. I believe there's bergamot, there's lemon, and things of that sort. But I believe it's a citrus aromatic. There are some woody notes there as well. But I like the bottle. It's a nice sort of a triangular shape. All of these are EDTs, by the way. So again, I don't think if you're looking for a beast mode projector that you would necessarily even want to reach for these, because that's not the purpose of any of these sorts of fragrances, I don't believe. So again, Capucci, I wore this probably 2 days ago, and I went fairly heavy, probably 8 or 10 sprays actually, and I guess it was in the morning. And I reapplied, periodically. I think it was maybe a Saturday or so, and I, came back and reapplied a couple of times during the day. So it's not an issue. And when a fragrance is $20 or so, like this one was, you're not afraid to do that. So Capucci pour homme, again, 1967. Check it out if you can find it. I'm guessing that all three of these, in fact, I'm fairly certain of the last one in Oscar de la Renta, I think is still being produced. This one I'm fairly certain of as well. But if you come across a, feel free to pick up a bottle. I don't think you can go wrong, really. So again, Capucci pour homme. And last but not least, and I think you'll recognize the bottle if you're familiar with this at all, you immediately recognize this. This is Royal Copenhagen from 1970. And this is I would describe it as a powdery vanilla sort of fragrance. It's very unique. And I've had several bottles of Royal Copenhagen over the years. This is ultra cheap. I paid probably $10 for this, and that was on one of the discounters online. But several bottles over the years, but they've always been splash bottles. And I'm going to give it a little squirt. And, people have said, I've seen this featured in reviews over the last few months. People have said that the musk, Royal Copenhagen musk, is the one to go with now. Can't really speak to that because I don't have the musk. This is just the original. And it's not one that I would want to reach for every day, because if any of these three are slightly polarizing, I think it would have to be this one. So it's one that you either love or hate. I grew to love it. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say that I loved it from the moment I first smelled it. Love it first sniff, if you've ever heard that phrase. I can't really say that. I have grown to enjoy it a lot, but it is unique. It is somewhat polarizing. But if you are a fan of this style of, I'm going to call it a barbershop, it's a aromatic type fragrance, a barbershop type fragrance. Again, 1970. If you were going to take a chance on something, I would certainly say take a chance. If you like that nostalgic element of fragrances and of this hobby, I would say go ahead and grab it, especially if you can find it for $10 to $12. And this is a relatively small bottle. It is a 50 ml, 1.7 ounces. And it's one that I think you'll be happy to have on the shelf. Next time I may get the musk. I'm curious about it. If you have the musk, let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But this is just the original. So Royal Copenhagen. And it is not a splash bottle. It is a spray cologne. And I'm thinking, let me see if I can find this. This may be an EDC. I mentioned EDT a minute ago. This may be an EDC, just going off of that label, but I don't see anything underneath that indicates. So be that as it may, it does pack a punch. Okay, so this one is relatively strong, to be an EDC especially, relatively strong. Oh yeah, yeah, that's definitely coming across with those 70 vibes, those 70s vibes rather. Okay guys, well that is it. We're gonna call it good there. Hope you enjoyed that. Also left a short, just sort of summarizing all these things that you may want to take a look at as well. Just a very quick 1-minute video on this topic. Love to hear from you. What are you wearing these days? Drop me a line down below. Or if you've come across any new pickups that you'd like to share as well, I'd love to know that. So until then, y'all take care. I'll see you next time, and let's keep in touch. All right, guys.